Hi, and welcome back to the Skeptic Fox channel. So the UK's leading newspaper in releasing regressive left-wing dogma released an article the other day that caught my eye. The title read, National Hate Crime Campaign to Launch After Spike in Incidents. And it's an article filled with all the basic buzzwords, but quoting a 41% rise in hate crimes since the EU referendum. Now, I followed the hyperlink they had next to statistics, and it led me to another Guardian article. So it would appear that the Guardian feels that another trash article that they have written a few weeks ago is sufficient evidence enough for their readers. So I decided to have a quick look into this myself, and to be honest, what I found was quite shocking. But before I get into that, I need to describe what actually counts as a hate crime in the UK. So I went on the Citizens Advice website, and this is what they said. The police and Crown Prosecution Service have agreed on a common definition of hate incidents. They say something is a hate incident if the victim or anyone else thinks it was motivated by hostility or prejudice based on one of the following things: disability, race, religion, transgender identity, or sexual orientation. So personally, I don't have a problem with this definition of hate crime or hate incidents, although I do feel it's worth noting that the definition makes it very difficult to accurately compare the statistics from, say, now to a few years ago or even last year. That's because the definition of hate crime and hate incidents has expanded. In 1993, when Tony Blair originally introduced hate crimes, it only extended to race. Now it extends to so much more. With the introduction of the misogyny law in Nottingham, and if by all accounts soon to be the entire UK, this is going to have effect on the statistics, because it's not that more crimes of the same nature are being committed, it's just the classifications have changed, so more are being encompassed in it. And in the Home Office document for hate crimes in England and Wales for 2015 to 16, the police actually acknowledged this. They said in a statement, as stated by the Office for National Statistics, actions taken by police force to improve their complacency with the National Crime Recording Standards has led to improved recording of crime over the last year, especially for violence against the person offence. Together with greater awareness of hate crime and improved willingness of victims to come forward, this is likely to be a factor in the increase in hate crimes recorded by police in 2015 to 16 compared to the previous year. So what the police are basically saying here is it could be very possible that nothing's actually changed. I mean, this seems to suggest to me that these statistics can't actually tell us much. And in another police document where it outlined more specifically the statistical gathering for hate crimes, I found even more problems. For example, it said in it, hate crime is defined as any criminal offence which is perceived by the victim or any other person to be motivated by hostility or prejudice towards someone based on a person's characteristic. If you tell the police you think something is a hate incident, they should record it as such. It doesn't matter if the police officer dealing with the matter perceives it differently. You don't have to show evidence of prejudice or hostility to report a hate incident. So, as well as it being more about feelings rather than actual facts, it also doesn't have to be the person who the crime was committed against to say it was a hate crime. I will go a bit more into the other person a bit later on, but I'm sure you can see the problem with this. When no evidence for any motivating factor is there, how can you say it's a hate crime? It could just be a normal crime. I mean, for example, I could punch someone who's black because he called me a cunt, but I punched him because he called me a cunt, not because he was black. So therefore it's not a hate crime. But people who've seen that have the power to decide that was a hate crime. And it gets even worse than that. The second point I got from these documents was that the key aim of the national standards for incident recording is to ensure that the police record all incidents, whether it's a crime or a non-crime. So something that actually isn't a crime can go down as a crime because someone said it was a hate crime. The logic is just fucking retarded. I mean, it's the same thing with the misogyny law, where wolf whistling is now seen as a hate crime. And don't get me wrong, I disagree with the practice. I think it's a really disrespectful thing to do. But it's not a fucking crime. And if you didn't think it could get even more stupid than that, well, you were wrong. It is possible for more than one of the monitored standards motivating factors to be assigned to a crime. For instance, an offence motivated by hostility, race and religion would be counted twice. So in theory, one hate crime could go down 5 times. For example, if the person was black, Muslim, transgender woman who was also gay and disabled, that would go down 5 times. Bear in mind, it could go down 5 times if it wasn't a crime and if it's just to do with the person's feelings. And remember what I said about expanding definitions? Well, it gets a bit ridiculous. Some police forces also record hate incidents based on other person's characteristics such as age. In particular, Greater Manchester Police now recognise alternative subcultures hate incidents. These are incidents based on someone's appearance, including goths, emos, punks, and other similar groups. This means they will also be recorded any such incidents as a hate incident. Now, I used to hang around with quite a lot of emos and goths when I was growing up. And although the people I used to know were lovely people, you also got some of the most special fucking snowflakes in this group. And I genuinely used to know people from this group who would probably consider it a hate crime if you looked at them the wrong way. So remember I said earlier that it doesn't even have to be the victim of the crime or the non-crime who can decide whether something is a hate crime. It can be another person. And they go into a bit more detail about who this other person can be, and they have this to say about it. Other person's perceptions based on recording refers to the perception of the victim or any other person. It would not be appropriate to record crime or an incident as a hate crime or a hate incident if it was based on the perception of a person or group who had no knowledge of the victim, crime in the area, and who may be responding to media or internet stories, or who we are reporting for political or similar motives. The other person could, however, be one of a number of people, including police officer or staff, witness, family member, civil society organisation, who know details of the victim, the crime or hate crime in the locality, such as the third party responding charity, a carer or other professional who support the victim, someone who has knowledge of the hate crime in the area. This could include many professionals and experts, such as the manager of an education centre used by people with learning disabilities who regularly receive reports of abuse from students, a person from within the group targeted with the hostility, e.g. a traveller who witnessed a racist damage in a local park. So to me, this is just short of anyone. Pretty much anyone can decide if something is a hate crime. The other thing I read in this document, which I found quite interesting, was this paragraph. Additionally, work undertaken by the National Police Chiefs Council and published in July 2015 indicates little change in the level of violent incidents coming to the attention of police at the same time that the number of recorded offences was increased, as a third of police recorded hate crimes is for violence against persons offence. Any changes in recording practices affect levels of overall violence may be a factor in the trend in overall hate crimes. An additional cause of the rise in hate crimes may be improved identification and motivating factors behind offences, with police forces more robustly monitoring and recording hate crimes since the Paris attack 2015. So this would suggest to me that the police are much more hypersensitive and on the lookout for hate crimes after triggering incidents such as the Paris attacks in 2015, and with all the scaremongering that was going on about the EU referendum and the panic that was going on with the, oh my god, this could lead to potential racism, is it any wonder that the police would be monitoring and recording more robustly? So in reality then, there could in fact be no rise in hate crime at all. The statistics for gathering hate crimes are so fundamentally flawed, they essentially mean fuck all. Now, I was going to leave it at that, but then I came across an article by the Daily Mail, and I thought it had some interesting points to it. So, the Daily Mail wrote on this reporting of a spike in hate crime, which it's actually got at 57% and not 41%. It said this: dig into its provinces and things soon start to smell distinctly whiffy. For the 57% number was actually plucked from a single press conference released by the National Police Chiefs Council on June 27th, 4 days after the EU ballot took place. The document in question specifically stated that the police forces had recorded no major spikes in tension since Britons went to the polls. However, it footnotes added that 85 people logged hate crime incidents on True Vision, a website that recorded unverified allegations of such behaviour, during 4 days in question, up from 54 during the corresponding period a month earlier. What exactly did this mean? The police press release made things clear. This should not be read as a national increase in hate crime of 57%, but an increase in reporting through one mechanism over a single 96-hour period. Survey by the respected and political neutral think tank Pew Research, along with the prestigious British Social Attitude Survey, shows racial prejudice is in long-term and perhaps terminal decline. So what we have here then is a website set up by police to record hate crimes is actually responsible for this surge in reported hate crimes. But the truth is, we have no reason to take any of these reports seriously. Now, undoubtedly, there are some that are true. Some are probably going to be pure hate crimes. Others are just going to be crimes interpreted as hate crimes. Others are probably made up. But we've got no reason to believe any of it. And on the other hand, we've got respected organisations who do research into the opinions of the population, actually giving us a counter-narrative to the one we've been fed so often by the mainstream media, that we're actually way less racist and way less hateful than we have been in years. We do not live in a hateful nation. The Daily Mail actually gives us some examples of times when hate crime has been lied about. Now, they gave 3 examples in the article, but I'm only going to use one in the video. They wrote, such factors may well have motivated the ludicrous recent prosecution of Kevin O'Sullivan, a TV journalist who was involved in an altercation on a train back from a funeral a couple of years ago. Around 24 hours after the event, the other party, a straight white man who initially declined to press charges, informed the police that he wanted them to prosecute O'Sullivan for a homophobic hate crime. The man claimed that during the argument he tried to make a telephone call, only to be interrupted by O'Sullivan shouting, "Are you phoning your gay lover?" CCTV of the entire incident told a very different story, however. It showed that the man did not make or attempt to make a single phone call during the confrontation. Unsurprisingly, when the case came to trial, O'Sullivan was acquitted. So why would the media then continuously mislead people about these statistics? Well, I think there are many reasons, and to be honest, I think they're pretty obvious. First of all, clickbait titles. If you have a dramatic headline, people are going to want to know what it's about. They're going to click on it and read it. So that's one reason. The second reason, there's a yearly event in London where they charge 600 quid a head to be a part of. We also know how the regressive left really loves to throw buzzwords around. And it gives them justification for doing this, these sort of faulty statistics. They just say, oh look, spike in hate crimes. See, I told you the people who voted out were racist. Racists are coming forward, when in fact that's not the case at all. And personally, I think it allows them to demonize the right. I think they have been so successful in young people especially about demonizing the right as these hateful, racist, xenophobic people. And this is how they do it, with false reporting. So I'm going to leave all the links to all the articles I read and the police documents in the description. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, it really helps, and thanks a lot.